The voice of sharing Durian ASEAN.
Hi, this is Arlene and you're listening to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. So in our ABC dialogue today, we'll be having a very interesting guest. His name is Father Lawrence Andrew. He's the editor of the Herald. As we all know, yesterday there's a very interesting, I would say interesting thing happened, which is the court case of Allah. And fresh out from that, although they lost the battle of on the copyright to use the name of Allah, but at the same time, there's also a huge lesson that we can learn out of this. And as what our topic today would be, who owns the word of the name of Allah? So welcome, Father Lawrence Andrew.
Thank you very much for this occasion.
Thank you very much from us from Durian ASEAN as well. First of all, I just want to know, what is your thought from yesterday's court case?
Well, yesterday's court case was an interesting court case in that sense that the judgment that was delivered by the Chief Justice on behalf of those who did not give leave for the application, more or less spoke on the reality of some technicalities which were not in the proceedings of the appeal court. And that's why it's a bit unfortunate that this went through that way, rather than taking the procedural thing and questioning and seeing the importance of the need of the country, the public, and the importance of the relevance of this case for the goodness of our country in the sense of upholding the Constitution. So it was a challenge to make better, re-emphasize the part of our federal constitution so that this country is governed by the supreme law of the nation. At present, we are in a quagmire. We are not sure who rules what and which law rules what. So this was a great opportunity to reinstate this supreme law of the country, and the federal court missed the golden opportunity.
Mm-hmm. So what actually happened at the court there? Because we saw pictures of Muslims wearing the T-shirt, Allah is not for all. But you were there, so what was your view on what the situation happened during the court case?
Well, they were outside the court building,
mm-hmm.
so I actually could not see. Only the reporters were around the court building.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I did see from the internet postings about the crowd, and I saw them, and of course I made a comment about that we have only one God,
mm-hmm.
and we have only one world. We all worship the same God. We express it in different ways. But deep down in each of us, created by God, each of us have the potential to love one another, the capability to love one another, see one another as brothers and sisters. In our beautiful Malay language, we always say saudara, saudara. Whether you are Malay or Chinese or Indian or Muslim or Hindu or Christian, we all, when we are together in an assembly, we say saudara, saudara. It's a beautiful expression that we can relate to one another. The culture, the language itself lends itself to understand that this world of ours is created by God for us, and He continues to nourish us by the capacity for us to love and acknowledge one another in love and peace.
So what is the Catholic Church view on, the whole court verdict on this issue?
Well, we are studying the case. We still have to wait for what we call the actual judgment. And once we get the actual judgment, we will see what is the actual course of direction. What can we do out of the judgment,
I
So
see.
we are hoping, if it is possible, to have a review of this
I see.
federal court decision.
But the Catholic Church will still pursue the issue on, nevertheless, is it?
Yeah, it is for the good of the country. It's not for the good of... See, right now, we are confused. We have not moved beyond square one, because you could see by the very fact that Putrajaya had issued a clarification after the court decision. Yeah, so when they do such a thing, there is already confusion. And I know that a confusion brought about by the federal court, because one of the judges that who had no objection to granting leave, Richard Malanjun, said this decision of the appeal court now can have a wider implication, affects everybody. And then Putrajaya in the evening gives out a statement saying, no, it only applies to Herald, whereas a court document now says it has implications for the whole, all aspects of life, and Putrajaya's statement outside the court says it's only for Herald. So obviously it shows there is a confusion even among the judges and also the government officials.
Yeah, talking about the judges, I think the judge's verdict itself is very interesting, because if you look at the court verdict itself, the judges that votes against and for the Allah issue are very much divided. It's actually 3-4, and those voted against the Allah usage for Christians, majority are mostly actually Malay Muslim, while the decision that supports the usage of Allah are actually very much multiracial. They are Muslim and people from Sabah, Sarawak as well. So I'm just wondering, do you think the racial background of the judge have any influence to the decision of the court?
Obviously, it is evident. And one of the funny things happened in the reading of the judgment was that the 4 judges were not at ease. They were not able to look at the audience, the lawyers, the counsels, and the gallery. They were not able to look straight, whereas the other judges were free to look straight. This was remarked by many, not just myself. So it only shows that there was an uneasiness itself in this judgment among the judges. And I'm sure that this is, whether it was a thing that they had to do it, or did they do it freely and with clear conscience, I'm not sure.
Sorry, continue.
Whereas the other 3, you could see that they did it with great freedom. In those who were against, the lack of freedom was obvious.
I'm just wondering, for the reasons of they making the decision that they make, why they choose, either to be against or for? What were the answers that they gave to you?
Well, as I said, we really have to study the judgment. It was not available then, we just orally, and they gave a summary. But it speaks about Section 9 of the State Enactment Act, whether it overrides or it can override the Constitution and so on. It's above the Constitution or on top. It's not very clear. So a clarification like that should be applied for, also it was said. But I think one is the Constitution, supreme law of the country. And already it is said in Article 4 of the Federal Constitution anything that's not against the Constitution, goes against the Constitution, is null and void. Well, there is a challenge there itself.
Mm-hmm. So the word Allah actually is not against the Constitution for non-Muslim to use it.
Yes, it is not, yes.
Mm-hmm. So why do you think there's such a huge hoo-ha on the issue revolving around the word Allah? I mean, it's only recently where it becomes very big, and to the extent that it's somehow dividing the nation itself.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. It's almost right in the middle, actually. It is just actually reflects the very way the court decision went, 4-3,
Mm-hmm.
So and that's how it is. It affects the nation. Now, what has prompted this? Now, it is one way of looking at it. It's again the affirmative action that we practice in this country, where we want to protect the Malay race. Now, this is being carried a bit too far. That they are being treated with gloves. So they'll get confused easily. And so because they are going to be confused, so we must protect them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this shows there is something very wrong with our education, something wrong with our interpersonal relationships, something wrong with the way we manage this nation. There's social engineering that is taking place. Before this, Malays, Chinese, Indians could meet around, interact freely, and were friends, truly friends. There was muhiba.
Mm-hmm.
Today, this is absent.
I see.
It's, muhiba is not even a word that is now being, proclaimed around. Because in the 70s, everyone, had the word muhiba. Even restaurants opened with the word Mohiba restaurant. So today that is not the case. We are cautious. Children are told don't speak to a non-Muslim. There is segregation. All of these, social engineering to cater for one community is destroying the fabric of our society.
But personally, I mean, I'm just curious to know, will Malay actually get confused? Do you actually get Malays to your church thinking that, the word Allah is referring to the Muslim God instead of, is the Christian usage of interpretation of Allah?
Well, we have been using this word for centuries, and they were not confused.
Mm-hmm. And in fact, you have been using it since, in the Catholic Church in Malaysia has been using this since centuries ago. And you have actually a Bible in Malay having the word Allah in it. Also prayer books as well.
Yes. More than, they are centuries old. And so there was no problem, no difficulty. Even I had Malay friends with whom I could exchange words and even share our Bible stories, or they will share the story from the Quran. And this was not in any way threatening, and we still maintained our own faith, and so there was no difficulty. It's only when we were informed that this is not the way to do, this the way to do, we must be separated, that we created this confusion. So this confusion was created by the system that we have in our country.
So do you think the issue is politicized?
Very much so. Very much so.
But who will benefit out of this issue if it is being politicized?
Well, those who are in power, of course.
Mm-hmm.
It is always that, isn't it? The poor, that rakyat, are always innocent people in these kind of things.
Mm-hmm. And
it's a phenomenon throughout the world, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Who benefits from communism? The poor people slog, but the proletariat slog, but those in power always get the benefit.
Yeah, and even with prominent scholar all over the world, from Yusuf Qaradawi to Reza Aslan and and so many of the others as well, even Zakir Naik saying that Allah is for all. Even Christians can use Allah, the Jews can use Allah, but still in Malaysia Allah is exclusively for the Muslim, and in this context would probably be the Malay Muslim. I'm just wondering, like, why there's such a strong insistence to create an ownership towards a name, supposedly an Arabic generic name for God.
Yes. See, the Arab philologists, they have discussed the etymology of the word. And they said it is a loan word from Syriac language or even Hebrew. And it is a contraction of al-ilah. Now, that's so. It is already, even in Arabic, it's a loan word. That's, and some people say some scholars say it may probably be from Aramaic as well. It's the language of Jesus. Yeah. So then, what is more and interesting is that even before Prophet Muhammad, this word Allah was used 5th century before Christ, before the Common Era. So the inscriptions with Allah has been discovered in northern and southern Arabia from as early as the 5th century. So long before. That means about 1,000 years before Islam came into being, the word Allah was used.
It was started being used by pagan Arabs or by Christian Arabs?
And then, of course, when Christian Arabs came, they were also using the word Allah. So that means it's pre-Islamic. Christian use of the word Allah is pre-Islamic, before Islam came to being. So to say that Muslim own the word, it's ridiculous. As an analogy, I can say that there are many words in our country that come from Sanskrit. Now, can we say that because of that, the Malay and the very basis of the Malay language is not Arabic, but it is Sanskrit? So can we say that Malay belongs to the Hindu kingdom? Before Islam came, this was part of the Hindu kingdom, And so can we say that the Malay language belongs to the Hindu kingdom and therefore the Muslims cannot use? Can we say that? It's impossible. So nobody owns a language. Can we say the English belongs to English? What will the Americans say?
That's true. So what about the Christians in Indonesia? I mean, we all know Indonesia is the world's most populous Muslim country in the world. And what does the Indonesian government think of the idea of having the Christian Indonesian using the word Allah?
Well, I've lived in Indonesia, and I've used the word Allah, and we had no difficulty. And it's commonly used there. And we say, Inshallah, and we do not feel, it's a forbidden word if we use it. And an exclamation, Astaghfirullah. We'll say that and we don't blink an eye whether it could be a Muslim or a Christian. It's a common language. It's a common word. Nobody owns a word or language. There is no such thing as copyright for words or languages any part of the world. It's the people's language. And not a group's language. If it's a group's language, it becomes a language of them only that they invented and among themselves. But Allah was there before. Malay was used in this country even as a language. Because even how far, the way Malay has developed now is far different than what it was earlier. For your information, one of the first dictionaries in this country that was printed, before even the Malay dictionary was printed, was the Malay Latin dictionary.
I mean, at that time, it's direct translation from Latin to Malay, not from Latin to English to Malay, right?
That's right. That's right. So the word that it is used is Deus, to Allah. So it is not just a translation of God, Allah. We are confusing people. It's the language, it's the word for the supreme deity. That's all.
So for you, right, being at the forefront and being in the middle of the issue of Allah, why do you think Malay Muslim especially, they are so sensitive in safeguarding the word Allah, and why they have a huge skepticism or skeptical towards Christianity itself, as if the Christians have this huge agenda to convert all the Muslims into Christians?
Well, this has been a program that started in the late 70s into the 80s, then until now. So it started quietly, passed in various states, through various state enactments, prohibiting about 30 odd words, of which about 15 words or so affect the Christians. So it is not just the word Allah that is in question. They have said that Iman cannot be used. They say that Wahyu cannot be used. Angel cannot be used. Now, see how strange it is. Angel, it's not, it's not even has not even an Arabic root. Angel is a borrowed word.
I see.
Even that is being said cannot be used. So, I mean, this is the kind of way this is, So, somebody has decided that these words cannot be used by Christians, and it was lying down in the enactments of the various states, and then it became known to the people slowly. People began to talk about it, bring it up to the open, and so then it became a program where states begin to assert, the NGOs began to assert, and says this is exclusive to us. I mean, this all comes from also a sense of feeling that we are losing ground. In any civilization, there comes a moment we begin to see with the new technology that we say we are losing ground. Many of the old generation will say, we do not know how to use the computer. We do not know how to use the new iPhone and so on. It's too complicated. They feel they're losing touch of these things. There will be that kind of fear when a new culture or new person comes. There is always the threat that their livelihood or their existence is being threatened. This is very natural. It's anthropological in a way.
And another argument by Islamists, this is what I read in social media, is the Muslim understanding of Allah is supposed to be about oneness. It's not supposed to have a son or daughter, and it's supposed to be the idea of a real monotheist God that governs all worlds and all humans. But when it comes to Christianity, the idea why they cannot gel well with Christians is they are against of reinterpreting the meaning of Allah as a God that has a son and the idea of Trinity itself. But maybe you can clear some of the air on this issue.
Okay, first and foremost, we keep aside the word Allah, the theological connotation. Now, take the other word that is prohibited for use by Christians in a way, is Imam. The meaning of Imam for a Muslim and a meaning of Imam for a Christian, they are different. But are we going to say that because Muslims understanding of Imam is like in this particular format, sure, Christians also must follow the same. If not, this cannot be used. So that is their argument. Now, that is one word that is so it is beyond the word Allah itself. They are beginning to look at the differences. Now, Wahyu, the word Wahyu, it's revelation. and how revelation came to Nabi Muhammad is different from the Christian understanding of revelation. So what are we doing actually? We are violating the theology of another group. We are saying that if you want to believe in God, you must believe only in this form. Now that again violates the constitution of our nation, which says we are free to practice our faith, and also that without any interference from any place. But all of these kind of forced interpretation and possessing the words are actually violating the very constitution of our country, which is the supreme law of the country. So when they then bring this case of Allah, Muslims have it differently and Christians have it differently, let us take another analogy to say the dress. The Muslims, the Malays wear their baju kurung and so on. That's a Malay dress. But does that mean that those others who wear the baju kurung, they become Malays immediately?
Not really, right?
Yeah. You see, you can use the word, but and you can fit it in, and you can look beautiful. So, but that doesn't change the personality. It's these. So the four words, languages, they are vehicles to convey the ultimate reality in all our lives. Language becomes a means, a way, but language does not become the deity or the supreme being. Now, to do that is again a violation against Islam itself and a violation against Christianity, creating images. Now, Muslims are very particular about having a written picture. But when you begin to create images like this and say, this is what it is, that's already wrong. All of our ability to make use of any technology, any other means, the sources of communication, channels of communications, conduits for communication, all of these are possible. Therefore, we don't make those the ultimate thing. When we do that, then then it could be shirk, we say, or we say we are having false gods. That we can, so we should not. These are only means to express the unexpressible reality called God. The moment we think that we can express God fully in one language, we have denied God His existence. Because God is not like that.
In fact,
God is beyond compare.
In fact, it's interesting to raise that because in the word, the Arabic word called Allahu Akbar, actually the meaning itself is Allah is greater than. So in a way, even in Islam itself, it recognizes that the idea of Allah is actually greater than what we human can actually,
That's right.
Imagine what it would be, right?
Yeah. So we are in fact in the very aspect we are denying, we are contradicting our religion. Each whenever it says this. So that's why we say, look, this is not, the word does not represent the word, the person, it describes about the person. In fact, there are 99 beautiful names of God in the Muslim religion to describe the God.
Yeah, that's true. And I want to touch on the sprouting of Malay Muslim extremist group, and one of it is I think the current one that is popular among the Malay generation would be ISMA. Recently, one of his president was being caught by the government. But I'm just wondering, like, as the Catholic Church, do you think it's a responsibility to reach out to this extremist group and at least explain, providing the path of dialogue with them? Because I think what is lacking in this country as a whole is the idea of communicating with each other and having a peaceful dialogue on what works for this country.
Sure. I'm all for it. I mean, we need to communicate. We need to dialogue so that we can overcome misunderstandings, take away the confusion that we harbor in our hearts and minds.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, confusion is something that we harbor.
Mm-hmm.
And confusion is not, if we may say it, confusion is not from God.
Mm-hmm.
If so, somebody says they are confused. It's not from God. It's created. Man created. Man-made reality.
Mm-hmm.
So that itself, we should be alert. We should be sensitive, because spiritual masters will tell you confusion is not from God.
Mm-hmm.
If God created, He did not create us in confusion. We, because we don't follow God, we get confused.
Mm-hmm. So, what is your view on this rights group, racial rights group or religion rights group? Why do you think they are so? They are so into the idea of protecting of their own faith.
Well, I suppose there's a lot to it. It is a political agenda.
Mm-hmm.
At one moment, past will say yes, others can use the word Allah. Another moment, they say they cannot.
Mm-hmm.
Pakatan is so far, PKR so far in the beginning, at least now they are silent, but in the beginning they said there's no problem in using the word Allah.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's all about political decision, what is popular on the ground, isn't it?
How to make someone be motivated to belong to a particular group.
Mm-hmm. That's
the issue. How can we keep them together in our group?
Mm-hmm.
It is always like this. When you create an enemy there, then you join together to fight that enemy.
Mm-hmm.
This is a great way to fight, and that's you could see the mentality then, the psychological framework then is that they are now projecting Christians as an enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And who are the Christians? The Christians are non-Malays.
I see.
They forget that there are also Bumiputras. Majority of them in Sabah and Sarawak.
Mm.
So they are making enemies of their own friends, of their own citizens,
mm-hmm.
when they shouldn't be. The whole country, politically, is supported by the great number of MPs from Sabah and Sarawak.
Sabah Sarawak, I like that you mentioned about Sabah and Sarawak, because they have been using the word centuries ago from both Muslim and Christians. And
yes.
The main language spoken in Sabah Sarawak is a Malay language. So how do they receive this kind of news in Sabah Sarawak?
They had no problem. And till now, they have no problem. And they're not confused about Christianity or Islam in that sense. If the family is Christian, and you can have a family where a brother is a Muslim, the sister is a Catholic or another Christian denomination. No
mm-hmm.
problem. No problem.
Mm-hmm.
They respect one another.
Mm-hmm.
So where is the confusion? It is socially engineered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see. We are towards the end of the time here, but I just want you to highlight, what should be the way forward in this country in sort of narrow down the divide between different religious groups.
It's funny. It's funny that we should have such divisions because of material or thought patterns that are not paramount or great. We worship God, that is fundamental, true. But we make issues of these words and make it pride. That is not right. It is a destruction of a multiracial society that we are. So what we could do is, as citizens of this country, we say, look, don't look at the differences. Look more positively our ability to work with. We have games. Take, for instance, in the world of games, you have squash. See, Nicole David. She's not a Muslim. But, is she saying, no, I won't play for Malaysia? No. She says, look, I will champion Malaysia. I will fight to the very end. And she has been a world champion for years now. Whether she's a Christian or Muslim, is it coming in the way? Not at all. Or for that matter, the badminton players.
So there are a lot, in reality, there are a lot of good Malaysians and positive interfaith and intercultural mixing in this country that we should highlight, isn't it?
Yeah. So when we were playing the Thomas Cup, where were all the Malaysians? Were they divided? Oh, he is not a Muslim, therefore I will not support. Did they say that? No, he is a Malaysian, we support. And there was that need to rally around. So what does it say? It is, as I said in the beginning, there is that love that God has put into our heart. Each one of us. The very thing that a child looks towards at the birth is the warmth and love of the mother. It is there even before words are uttered. Even words before the child utters the word. It's love.
So anyway.
So when that love is not there, when that, we are the ones who instill this division.
That's true. We are the one. Anyway, Father Lawrence, thank you very much. Thank you for sharing your views with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, welcome.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be on air with you today.